Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the UKEL Summer Split for 2020. I am Will Vibrant William. I'm joined by Adrian Jamada Ford. I'm sitting on the other side that I usually do, so I pointed the wrong direction. I practiced this before, and I still managed to get it wrong. And we're back for the Summer Split of the UKEL. I'm super excited for this one. Jamada, how are you feeling?
I am feeling more than excited. We've got so many new teams in the league, and I'm just excited to get things kicked off, man. I want to see how these teams play the game. I want to see how they draft. I'm just excited to get into this and just break everything down.
Yeah, a lot of new teams coming in as well. We have 5 new orgs coming in to the UKEL because we've lost a few from different reasons, of course. Bulldog and London Esports both getting promoted up to the UKLC, so you're going to have to make sure you watch and see how those do with DreamHack, as well as Absolved leaving us to join the Danish second tier as well. So a lot of new organisations coming in, but not just yet though, because our first match of the new split, it's a couple of returning favourites. We've got Mythos versus Vector.
Yep, 2 of the remaining teams from the spring split coming in, and rosters on the screen now. Vector coming in with Niangi top lane, Jambo in the jungle, a very favoured player inside of the UK scene, Berry in the mid lane, Hawkeye at AD carry, and then sign up Sprinter in support, and then Mythos, I've done it on the flip side because I like Jambo. Duo Q Booster in the top side of the map, Croatian jungle in jungle, Artisuka, I'm hoping I haven't butchered your name, friend, in the mid lane, Arson in the AD carry role, and Myth Aftermath in the bottom side, supporting his AD carry. And I don't know too much about a lot of the players and a lot of the rosters on this in the league now. We have so many fresh players, so many new names, and I think that's part of the excitement now for the summer splitters. Last split we knew so many players, right? A lot of them had histories, and it was kind of easy to sometimes predict, not necessarily outcomes, but how players would perform. But now there's so many fresh faces that it's effectively like a new league again.
And that's exactly what we're here for. We want to see how this fresh blood performs. And of course, we do have some returning faces as well. Mythos Gaming, a couple of these players are well known in the amateur scene. Duoq Booster and Croatian Jungler used to go by Sujin and Ventum respectively. So they're players that have been around for quite some time. This team has existed in multiple different areas. And I'm just very excited to see how these new teams do, because they're old organizations, but none of these players, I don't believe, are returning to the teams, except maybe, was Synapse Sprinter on Vector last split for a time?
Synapse Sprinter was definitely in the UKEL. I'm just unsure about his team. Caster, by the way. But he was definitely here. He was definitely here. So one of the few returning players in the league, really. A lot of players have moved up. A lot of players have just outright left. So, like we said, a lot of fresh faces.
Yeah, a lot of fresh faces, a lot of very talented teams coming in as well. But let's turn let's turn our brains to this game that we're going to be watching. Vector versus Mythos, because looking at tier lists, and of course, there have been a few going around, and some of them have been better than others. I know that mine was not good already. I can see mine being blown open week 1. A lot of people are putting these teams as maybe not the top half of the league teams, maybe not playoff contenders or lower playoff contenders. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how players do in this game specifically, because you've got players like Jambo, who you've already mentioned, who feels like he's been around for ages, but has also never really played on a roster, never had a starting spot particularly, and I'm going to be very excited to see how him and a lot of these other more novice, more rookie players perform.
Yeah, and like I said, Jambo's a UK favorite amongst the crowd, amongst the fans, even amongst some of the players. So you're gonna see a lot of Jambo time in the chat. You're gonna see a lot of support for Vector and Jambo specifically. So I'm more excited to see how he gets on. Of course, it's kind of truly his first outing, like you say, in a competitive environment. So a lot of pressure is gonna be on him, and honestly, a lot of Vector too. So it's gonna be good.
A couple of other players on that Vector lineup you might have seen before. Of course, Silent Sprinter was in the UKL last split and has been around for quite some time at this level. Barry as well, if you were keeping up with the UKLC qualifiers, did play on August, had a truly solo carry 1v9 performance on the Cassidon, where I believe he went 16-1. But we're going to have to see if he can replicate that kind of form as we do jump into this champ select for the UKEL 2020 Summer Split. Vector on the blue side, Mythos on the red.
Yeah, and straight out of the gate, seeing a Lulu ban, which is a little strange, but I've had quite a few opinions on Lulu, and I'm starting to think that this meta could potentially turn into one of those Arden metas as things go on. As alright, well, speaking right into the context, I guess Soraka's going to be the next ban out. Of course, Soraka now kind of a flex pick, but not so common all of the time, as Olaf going to be taken away as well. So a lot of the priority picks on this patch, things like Graves, things like Trundle, sort of being allowed to stay open right now. Could of course see champions like these removed in the last 3 bans as timer ticks down, but Varus, there you go, very common red side ban right now. Very rare that this champion goes through, so Vector have a very important decision to make in terms of what they want to leave open now for this 3rd ban.
And of course, Vector do have that first pick, so they can prioritize, but a lot of high priority pickups have been left available. With only 2 bans left, you can't be covering all of the bases. Set is still available. With the Yui ban taken off the table, Syndra is still available. You've got some of those high priority marksmen as well as that Graves and the Nidalee, these 2 really aggressive junglers that have done so well on this patch, and did so well in the qualifiers, both being left open as well. So choosing to pinch out the support role is quite an interesting decision from these 2 teams.
Yeah, it's very, very strange almost to have so many power picks left up right now. I'm unsure what we're going to see. Lee Sin, Jumbo.
That's respect.
That is the biggest respect ban I've seen. So now it's about what Vector really want, about what's still up. Like you said, Syndra still up, Graves, Trundle still up, Nidalee even potentially available here. Not that I wouldn't expect it to be a first pick, but could even show up. But even Karma, a very strong pick. You've seen a lot of priority on that in the LPL, and if you had your eyes on the LPL versus LCK tournament over the off-season, there was also that. And Aphelios, of course, even slipping through all of this madness. So Aphelios is going to be the first pick up here. Hawkeye's going to have his hands on that one. A very powerful AD carry up, and I wouldn't be too surprised to see Ezreal in response, but right now, ball's in Mythos' court.
And of course, with the Yui off the table, the Ezreal pickup is less. It hasn't got that super safe bot lane duo option, so we'll have to see what they decide to go for. Wukong is the lock-in in the top lane, something that has been proven to be very, very powerful in this role, and interesting to see it just first pick, the confidence coming in from Sujin, duo Q booster, and of course that Syndra lock-in as well.
Yeah, and this is the problem immediately off the bat of the Aphelios first pick. It doesn't do too well into some of the mages, like Syndra specifically in the bottom lane, so potentially could be some trouble for the bottom lane matchup already of Vector. They need to do something here to sort of atone for that in these next 2 picks. Gonna try and find some means of engage out of the Nautilus pick. It seems like, I don't imagine this won't get locked in. So Synapse Sprinter most likely gonna have his hands on this one. But yeah, Wukong, a very another powerful champion. I can't emphasize enough how many S tier picks are just up in this draft right now. Trundle, Graves still up here if Jumbo wants to have his hands on those champions too. Out of the 2, I would imagine that he probably leans into Trundle, but I'll say Graves is maybe the more powerful pick out of the 2. Just kind of depends on preference, but I would expect either of these jungle champions to come out right here.
Nope.
But no, wow, alright. Just, okay, we're just going balls to the walls as here. Vector really just securing their 2 late game carries right here, so they've got some form of engage and peel out of the Nautilus. They've got sort of guaranteed late game scaling out of the mid and bottom lanes. So kind of looking to just stave out the early game to mid game champions that Mythos have found themselves drafting so far. Nautilus, Leona, I beg your pardon, gonna be the response into Nautilus, a champion I haven't really seen too much, surprisingly, out of a lot of the scuffles we've had from the LPL versus LCK, and of course the LPL starting back up. So very interested to see that. I'm expecting the Syndra to end up in the bottom lane to match into the Aphelios. Trundle removed now by Mythos, and I'd imagine that they just end up banning 2 junglers here.
Yeah, it could take away that Graves as well, and maybe put Jambo onto something a little bit less comfortable for him in his first game in competitive UK League of Legends. Going to be very fascinating to see what Vector decide to ban away, squeeze away, because of course that Syndra is that flexible pick, so you start banning mid laners on marks when you could just be banning into that Syndra, but with Echo taken off the table, could be another set of junglers being banned from both sides, which could really see some less optimal picks going into that role.
Yeah, and Vector are kind of squeezed for bans right now. They don't necessarily want to ban out jungles. They have to pick a jungle in this B4, B5. So doing that, it would be kind of counterintuitive for themselves. So banning away the Echo just as a means to maybe give Barry a slightly more comfortable matchup for himself on the Azir. And Camille actually removed away here. A comfort pick, I believe, for Niangi. So not going to have his hands on that one there. Potentially has a good matchup into the Wukong. I would imagine it would, as Camille typically outscales almost every single side laner, bar a few. So Vector here, I would imagine another mid lane ban comes out. Unsure on what exactly it would be. We'll have to wait and see here. Silas, yeah. Alright, so the Silas potentially indicates to me a potential Ornn pick in the last two picks here for Vector. I would imagine Mythos probably just end up taking their jungler. They hold on to the Syndra Flex. It'll probably make the most sense here. Oh, Kiana being covered. Yeah.
Something we don't see too often. Artie is a assassin player though, does really like these champions, and the Kiana being locked in. Oh, we've got a bit of a barn burner in this first game in terms of what we're seeing so far in Champ Select. A couple of very strange picks, or picks that we don't necessarily see too often in competitive League of Legends. Now, of course, Vector do need to pick up their jungler and their top laner, assuming no flex shenanigans with the Nautilus going up into mid lane or something silly like jungle or something silly like that. Have to see what Vector decide to go for. It's going to be the Gragas. You imagine that'll be their jungle pickup again, champion that we see a little bit of, but maybe not as much as people like the Graves, who still hasn't been mentioned in this game yet.
Yeah, Graves almost comically has somehow managed to slip through the entire phase so far. Gragas, of course, we're playing on live, so I have to emphasize here, we are on this new Predator patch. Gragas has probably risen a lot in strength, and Hecarim being hovered and being locked in. So there is a small chance for a flex here between the Hecarim and the Gragas, I have to add. Gragas could end up top lane with that phase rush build. I'm uncertain on its validity in this particular setup into the champions that Mythos find themselves having, but I would imagine that's going to be Gragas jungle, Hecarim top lane, and Mordekaiser being hovered and locked in. So I'm gonna hold reservations on my opinion until I see where these champions end up. Seems like most likely gonna have Wukong jungle, I hope. Out of what we see here from Mythos, but
no, it's a Leona jungle. Obviously. But yeah, we're gonna we'll wait, because players have been known to change champions at the last second to bamboozle people, but I think there's a few lanes we can talk about just straight up, right? We've got the Aphelios Nautilus going into the Syndra Leona. We know that this will be the bot lane. So why don't you talk us through that? It's quite interesting this Syndra as a mage with a heavy engaged support. Is that something usual?
Yeah, Syndra likes to have follow-up in her bottom lane matchups, right? Either set up or follow up. Either or, if she finds the scat of the week, she wants the CC to follow her. If her support finds the CC, then she follows in with the scat of the week. So very, very fine pairing. We don't necessarily see Syndra Leona a lot. It's typically actually the Nautilus you see more often paired up, just because it's a high priority pick right now. But certainly a fine matchup. Across the board, Vector kind of find themselves with not necessarily the best lane matchups per se, but the scaling is the name of the game here for Vector. They have Hecarim, they have Azir, they have Aphelios. All of these champions do wonderfully after that 2-item mark. Whereas on the other side, there's a lot of sort of peaking at the 2 to 3 item mark for a lot of the champions on the Mythos side of things. So a lot is gonna be realistically on execution for Mythos here, I would imagine. Whereas as time goes on, past that sort of 28-ish minute mark, 25-ish perhaps, depending on how the early game goes, the Vector champions should just slowly start to just carry them throughout this this end game point. And I'm not going to say Mythos are necessarily on a strict timer. They do have a lot of tools to find picks, but if they allow this to go past 3 items, 4 items at a stretch, they're going to start to struggle versus a lot of what these champions can do. And with the amount of peel that Azir and Aphelios have themselves inside of the Gragas, inside of the Nautilus, they're going to have a lot of space to operate versus what is a moderately short-ranged comp inside of the Mythos team.
One thing I appreciate is that Mythos didn't pick a traditional jungle pick, so Vector decided that they'd go for 2 champions that traditionally played in the jungle. So Gragas going up into that top lane, Hecarim in the jungle, has been confirmed now that we are into our 3-minute delay time, and Mordekaiser will be going top with the Wukong jungle for Mythos. And what do you make of this Wukong jungle pick?
Now, As time's gone on, I've kind of seen Wukong as a little less of a flex and a little bit more of a strong. Well, I shouldn't say it like that, but better as a laner as opposed to a jungler is the end goal. When Wukong came out, I think his release patch, he was comically weak. He got a little bit of love, and then all of a sudden, people started to understand how strong this champion actually was. And it showed, I want to say, at the back end of the LPL spring split, he might have been disabled, but come the mid-season tournament, and then also the start of this split in the summer, and then also, I'm sure throughout the UKLC's open qualifiers and closed qualifiers, we would have seen Wukong pop his head in a few select spaces. It is a very powerful champion, but I'm uncertain about it in the jungle role. It needs a certain level of economy to operate, which the jungle can't necessarily offer you just because there's less income. There's less gold to actually get unless you're finding kills in lanes.
So is that as a bit of a 3 o'clock before we get in and we get spoilers, are we going to see a heavy ganking early game from this Wukong? Are we going to see trying to farm up to get that economy, to get that money? Or what do you think is the game plan for a Wukong jungle on this patch?
Have to be aggressive. He ideally wants to try and get to 6 ASAP, but he has to try and be aggressive. You know, he's got Kiana mid lane, he's got Leona Syndra bot lane. He's probably going to end up the Wukong pathing towards the bottom side early, freeing up this Syndra and Leona to kind of do whatever they feel like doing, and then potentially turn it into some early dragons. Something along these lines. Mythos are kind of early game in need of some kind of snowball, whether they find it from ganks or whether they find it from trying to find an ocean soul early. They need gold early. They need to be ahead of the curve on these enemy champions. Otherwise, Vector will just slowly start to take over the game just by nature of the champions.
Well, we are getting into game very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. We're just going to wait for the sync up call when we are all together. But while we're doing that, let's have a quick rundown of the rosters before we get into this one again. On the blue side, we have Vector Gaming, Niangi in the top lane, Jambo in the jungle, Berry in mid, Hawkeye and Synapse Sprinter are on the bot side. And on the red side, we do have Vector Gaming, which is Juki Booster in the top lane, Creation Jungler in the jungle, of course, Artisuka at mid lane with Arson and Aftermath rounding out the composition at support.
Yeah, and like we said, there's not too many old faces around anymore. A lot of these players, I think 9 out of 10 potentially, just haven't played in the UKEL. Only Synapse Sprinter remaining out of these 10, so we don't necessarily know what to expect out of a game like this. Of course, the tier list have spoken in saying that these two teams likely to be towards the bottom end, unlikely to make it to playoffs. So when you're talking about a best of one round robin, a game like this is pivotal to win from the get-go. So a lot of pressure is going to be on both of these teams to actually secure the W here, because these are the kind of wins that you need to secure. Teams that are likely projected to be roughly in your area on the table.
Beating the teams that are meant to be around you is going to be very important. Of course, all these things could be very wrong. These two teams could be fighting at the top end of the table come the end of the split, but we're just going to have to get onto the Rift and find out. So hopefully we'll be able to get into this one very, very shortly for you. But while we're waiting for everything to be prepared and sorted, let's have a quick look over masteries, because we can now see those, and that's always something that can indicate how a game's going to be played out. So we have got the Gragas Phase Rush top lane. Why don't we start with that? Why would Gragas top decide to go for that mastery?
So Gragas top builds, they normally go into Phase Rush, and then they normally go into picking up the E-Max, the Body Slam Max, so that they basically become this obnoxious stun bot with too much movement speed. And enemy teams will find it hard to lock down this champion, and he does an obnoxious amount of burst damage too on top of that. So the Phase Rush is sort of a means to stop the enemy laner really from being able to trade onto him. Just because you body slam, you get an auto in normally the empowered W and a Q, and boom, your Phase Rush is procced, you just walk off from the trade. And there's not much counterplay inside of lane. So that's where you'll see, that's why you see the Phase Rush coming in. I think it was popularized by the Balfs, the challenger top laner. But at least he's one of the first few people I saw picking up in solo queue. I think initially for fun, but it's turned into a genuine answer here.
And looking at the rest of the masteries, anything that's particularly standing out to you as maybe being a little bit weird, or something that's worth going over in terms of why it's the optimal pick or why it isn't the optimal pickup?
No, everything seems to be pretty close to standard. I suppose potentially Aphelios going into Conqueror could be considered strange, but Aphelios players have dipped into this rune a lot too. It can provide a lot. especially when you have, God forbid I know the Aphelios names, but the red gun and the white gun, it's so fast stacking up the Conqueror stacks that it can be worth taking this Keystone. But other than that, nothing too out of the ordinary. Berries on Hail of Blades, I feel like this is fine, though Lethal Tempo typically offers you more towards the later end of a game, which I feel like Vector are more than likely going to be playing towards here. So if there's something small that I could nitpick, it would be that, but still a fine rune choice nonetheless. Other than that, everyone taking what I would consider very optimal runes.
Excellent news. Well, we are just getting into this. We'll make sure there's a couple of things ironed out so we can have the smoothest gameplay experience for you as possible. But again, I want to talk about something that we were talking about a little bit in a caster chat, which is, this is going to be fun, high-level analysis. Marksman runes, right? Because traditionally, and for the longest time, it was you take heal on Marksman. That was the done thing. Your support takes the other rune, Ignite, Exhaust, depending on what time of the year it is. This game, we're seeing Cleanse on the Aphelios with an Exhaust on the support, and we're seeing Ignite on the Leona and Teleport on the Syndra. We're going to be getting into this game very, very shortly, but I just want to ask you quickly, what's the decision making there?
Just typically a lot of AD carries like taking Cleanse into Leona. It's very hard to avoid what is almost guaranteed engage from the Solar Flare, the Leona ultimate, so taking Cleanse is good. You can use it on the Scatter of the Week too, so likely the choice there. And as for the other keys, summoner spells, I beg your pardon, things like Exhaust have been popularized recently. I believe it got buffed maybe 2 or 3 patches ago, maybe a little longer. I feel we've been seeing a lot of Exhaust AD carries for a while now, but it's just another means of providing self-peel, something that is very, very valuable to AD carries right now, and it's why Ezreal is seen as such a high priority pick. A lot of the AD carries have fallen to the wayside over time due to nerfs, etc., and just not really fitting the meta, whereas Ezreal can run Exhaust in a lot of situations, whilst also being the incredible self-peeling AD carry that he is.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting into game. Sorry for that little bit of a pause. We're just making sure that we can hear our producer. Because as much as we love the sounds of our own voices, we love the sound of Phil's voice just a little bit more. But we are now onto the Rift with Vector on the blue side and with Mythos on the red side. Both of these teams looking to start their UKEL split. I was going to say season, but it's a split, I guess, because it's esports, on a winning start. And both of these teams looking to open up the UKEL with a win.
Yeah, and like we highlighted, teams that are trajected to end up near each other on the table, admittedly towards the bottom end. So a very important game to try and secure a win in, because these are going to be considered the few games that you will pick up wins. So both teams potentially going to be pressured into making some mistakes just out of, sort of the urgency to try and have to win this game.
If you believe the tier lists, this is a very important matchup in order
Yes,
to get. If you believe them, it depends if you do, because you can't believe all of them, because some of them have said very different things on every topic except Dragdar. But I'm sure that will be covered in the second half of the day.
Sure.
Looks like we might be getting a little bit of a invade coming through from Mythos on the red side, moving forward as a trio, but just going to be getting a bit of vision down, not actually looking to get a gank on, and will happily move away. Both junglers starting on their red buffs, which is not too unusual.
Pretty normal, and I would expect that Jumbo just aims for a full clear outright. Hecarim doesn't necessarily want to be too active unless a lane's calling for it. He really does want to just try and farm up to his level 6 as soon as possible.
Should be able to do just that. It depends really on the Wukong then, if he's going to be forcing this Hecarim to come and get involved in the game a little bit more, because if you're a jungler who is just hard farming to 6 and Wukong's all over the map killing your laners, that's when you have to start getting involved. Every second that Hecarim's spending in a lane where he's ganking or counter-ganking or even just guarding in the jungle, he's missing out on crucial golden farm.
Yeah, exactly that. So pathing going to be very, very important for Jambo. Meanwhile, his counterpart is already on his rump going for the free camp clear, as trade goes a little awry for Niangi there, but not necessarily going to be the end of the world. As Wukong already pathing towards the bottom side, potential action.
Looking towards Hawkeye, so that Sprinter, Aftermath, stepping pretty aggressively forward, does force the Vector bot lane away from that wave, but it does mean that Wukong's not going to be able to get the Best gang in behind, but a decent stun coming in and a flash ball from Aftermath. This is really aggressive. Cleanse has already been used and Hawkeye is forced to flash away, so that Sprinter will be the one ignited, but he's going to be able to get away with the shield. A lot of resources burnt to the bot side, but crucially, no one goes down just yet.
Yeah, 2 for 2 summoner trade, but definitely one if you're Mythos, you're taking. Hawkeye not going to have his flash or cleanse available for the next gank, so if he gets locked down by any CC and Croatian jungle is in the area, Hawkeye's going to die. There's just going to be too much burst there as Niangi's making a guest appearance in the middle lane. And because of this early showing in the bottom side, Jambo is actually taking this opportunity to find some counter jungling, going to pick up Wukong's Raptors, and seems like that's all he's going to take. Didn't want to be too greedy and walk towards the Krugs, so early win for Jambo personally, but bottom side, if it's going to be pressured even more by the Wukong here, could spell some early disaster.
Nice window for Croatian jungle just to step up and get those efficient ganks on. But yeah, Niangi with a very early roam down towards that mid lane, has now come back top, but is a level down on Joe
Okay.
So Jambo looking to get involved, not able to do too much there, but does force Joe to relay just a little bit. You can see Kiana and Wukong roaming up for themselves, so this could be a 3v2 play. Don't know if they're going to want to tower dive it though. Tower diving into a Gragas seems like a pretty horrible idea.
Yeah, not necessarily the best idea, and a very peculiar roam timing from Kiana. Doesn't seem like she's going to miss too much, as Berry didn't really opt into hard shoving the wave, though it could be frozen. It's kind of hard to tell from the minimap right now, but yeah, Jambo getting second action in on the top side of the map. Doesn't really amount to much, only really HP traded, and just going to end up returning to his jungle to take the 2 remaining camps before more than likely resetting, and seems like we're going to have a little bit of a quiet period, potentially.
Trying to make it a little bit louder, hanging around in that top side. Jambo up there on Hecarim as well.
Oh.
So it would be a quick response. And Aggie's actually below half health and does not have that much mana. Jukin Booster and Croatian Jungler looking for the dive, and a nice stun coming through from the Aggie. Makes your first blood. It's going to go over to Gragas. He's going to fall immediately afterwards, but now Jambo should be able to pick up the spare. Nice jump coming in from Slow. And this could be the turnaround. Hecarim has to use that ghost to get away. Does manage to survive. Berry and Artie both looking to come in. Berry's first one to respond. Gets stunned up by the Kiana, but is looking to turn the damage around. And with that ranged advantage, gets a bit of damage off before he slips away.
Yeah, and Niangi goes down in the tower dive. I was expecting Mordekaiser to also drop. Oh, gonna have to hold that.
Taking a decent amount of damage. Aftermath steps forward, will get stunned up by that auto attack on the Nautilus. Well, Hawkeye should be able to just dance away from any of those balls being thrown down by Syndra. So at the end of the day, bot lane fight doesn't come to too much.
Comes to too much, but Croatian jungle is in the area. Another engage would certainly spell death one of these bottom laners, a Vector.
Coming in, invisible onto Hawkeye. Remember, no flash available, and this is all the damage, all the lockdown you need. Wukong's going to pick up one. It looks like Synapse Sprinter may be following, has the flash, but it's not going to be enough, as the Dawn has arrived and Leona picks up the second kill of the fight.
Second kill going over to Leona, and I'm unsure whether or not they'll be able to translate this into an early dragon. They do have the mid lane priority right now, as off our screens actually, Kiana just flashed away from what seemed like an Emperor's Divide, but doesn't seem like Mythos are going to quite be able to trade this into an early dragon just yet, but they should, the next time that they find an opportunity to get enough pressure in the mid lane, in the bottom lane, try and start stacking up these early dragons. As we said coming into this, draft versus draft, it will come to a point where Mythos will kind of just fall to the wayside in the face of an Azir, in the face of an Aphelios, and even to some degree a Hecarim will become a very big menace in this kind of game. So need to be applying the pressure. They're doing it right now in lanes, they need to start doing it in objectives.
For a transition into that mid-game period, into that tower taking, dragon taking frame of mind, but they won't be too worried about the bot lane kills. They just grabbed up, have got themselves a tiny bit of a lead, but at this stage in the game, that's not too much of an issue. And very interesting to see both these teams so willing to roam, so willing to group very early on in the game, and don't seem to care too much about the lane phase individually in the 1v1 or 2v2, and are much rather looking to be involved, especially on the top side. Niangi and Juko Booster also very happy to be trading damage back and forth, but no kills just yet in that top side after the initial gang.
Yeah, I'll have to say, we're going to have to keep an eye on the mid lane. The Kiana without flash right now, and Jambo is level 6, and once the Emperor's Divide comes through, it could be a potential gank opportunity. Right now, just hanging around the bot side, sort of shadowing, unaware of where Wukong is. Of course, on the opposite side of the map right now. However, Kiana is trying to make a move bot lane as hefty trade.
Takes a lot of damage. Yang able to waddle his way to freedom though, with that phase rush giving him that movement speed, and you can see Wukong on the top side. Oh look, coming through though. Juka Boost is gonna be able to take him into death realm though. Niangi does manage to escape with a sliver of health and gets onto tower. You can see Wukong might be moving in to the dive. Could be looking to pick up the kill onto Gragas, who doesn't have teleport. Would be a good time to get the kill down, and all the guys just shoving in that wave. Gragas has made big decisions in staying here, and the flash forward from Wukong will be all it takes. Croatian jungler picking up his second kill of the game. 100% kill participation on this jungler. He's definitely been proactive.
Yeah, proactive indeed. And you said looking for the kill, and in my head I was like, nope, Niangi's just on a timer, my friend. Croatian jungle manages to just take the last Quinova, flash, find the last hit, and Niangi's gonna miss a whole lot of XP on the top side. So top lane matchup, not going great. Bottom lane matchup, not able to find a alright, not able to find anything on that gank, but also not even going too great. They do have the pressure in the bottom side and the mid lane. Seems like pings onto this Infernal Dragon, but it could be responded to as a mid trade.
Very clean sliding away from Azir, able to escape from the fight. Hawkeye might be in a bit of trouble. Zedblade comes through the Croatian jungler looking for Jambo, has to ult away, but he will be chased on by the monkey. Nice knock up there, and he's going to get another kill for himself, taking Jambo out of the fight after that, moving forward. Croatian jungler is there for support. That's been a nice ultimate, but will be flash stun. Myth has to be very careful. Aftermath manages to get himself away. Stun won't land for Arsene, but both of these bot laners are very, very low. Dragon has been taken up by Mythos this time around, though. Berry might look for the steal, but with Smite, will it be enough? Who's going to secure it? It's going to be secured by Mythos.
Yeah, and worst case. Oh,
Archie wants to get involved. Now they're looking to return fire. So he's wary about getting involved in this one. Teleport coming in. All fight here. Berry's got it, but has been stunned away. Archie moving back, but does manage to get the kill. Trades zone life. Nice double jump coming in from Arsene. Will secure 2 kills. 1 for Wukong, 1 for Syndra. And now Niangi on the top side trying to go in onto Jerky Booster. But these two are a little bit too tanky to get in the action. Mythos are running away with this early game.
yeah, it's just worst case scenario after worst case scenario for Vector right here, and all according to plan to Mythos. They find another gank towards the bottom side. Croatian jungle manages to find Jambo with his pants down on the dragon, just pretty much straight up assassinates him on it. And off the back of that, more kills, and bottom lane now. Hawkeye, behind on gold. He's gonna be behind on curve for such a long period of time, whereas Syndra is gonna be such a big threat now. And so much gold on this Wukong. Already has Warrior, 5 kills picked up. I don't think he's spent it. I think he's sitting on a lot of gold too. So once he does eventually get this next resell, he's gonna be a scary guy. He's gonna be a scary monkey. By period, it's a worrisome one.
It's gonna be terrifying. And it will be terrifying. 5, 1, and 2. We talked about what is this Wukong need to do. You said he has to be proactive early. He's definitely being proactive. The only worry, I guess, would be, are they loading too much of their overall gold total onto this jungle Wukong?
I mean, I don't think it's been intentional, but there is a lot of gold on the Wukong. So if they can manage to find fights away from him, there could be opportunities where you could see positives come out of these, out of any kind of skirmishes or objective trades. But this is the jungler we're talking about. He's always going to be on the active side of the map, so it's going to be very difficult, I feel, for Vector to actually operate here with such a fed champion on the enemy team, and that champion being Wukong too. Very unlikely to find fights away from him, as Niangi not really had the best of times in this matchup.
No, he's been bruised and beaten up a little bit by his Mordekaiser, not really able to take those really great trades, because Mordekaiser will just put on a massive shield and then just smack you about a little bit. Artio looking to get a bit of a damage down to Berry, doing a lot from just one rotation, doesn't even involve ultimate, and that's where you've got to be quite careful against this Kiana. But as you can see, there's a fight around Rift Tower. Jambo going in, can he secure it? He can't, he's going to move away, but he's going to be taken away by the Death Realm, and it's going to be secured by Croatian Jungler. Jambo will actually be taken down in the 1v1 as well, so that's really looking to get forward, just managed to get onto the Wukong, but Mordekaiser's already there. Niangi will be taken down for the double kill from the Mordekaiser. Another one comes through. That's going to be Kiana taking that one. It's 3 kills, no response coming in from Vector, and honestly, Mythos is just getting further and further ahead.
Now, I don't like calling games. Don't like saying games are over. But this is a pretty extravagant lead that Mythos are starting to build for themselves now. Don't even manage to drop any kills on the back end of this Herald fight, and I have to ask questions of where Jambo's Mikey was all.
Artie trying to get on top of Barry, the damage coming through. Will he be able to survive on a sliver of health once again? Gracious Juggler comes in to make sure there's no chase, and he even drops the Wretch out.
Herald gonna secure some plates for himself, and Kiana gonna take this opportunity to back off as, I mean, Mythos bottom lane tower's gone before that 14-minute mark, and there's just plates galore right now. Just, I think Arson and Aftermath took 4 to 3 plates off of the bottom lane roam, and we just saw right there Wukong at least secured 3 for himself. So much gold just being put in the pockets of this Mythos lineup, and it's starting to get to the point where it's hard for me to say Vector's comp is going to be able to come online if they can just slow bleed objectives. They've not played so far as if they're the comp that has to scale. They've kind of played in a way where they've not necessarily been scared, but they kind of have to be scared versus this kind of comp early. They have to be able to recognize dangers before they actually show up, and it's not really happened, and Mythos have found themselves picks in the means of Wukong ganks, and we see how strong Wukong is. He's not even going into Cleaver. This jungle Wukong's going into Triforce as a primary damage option after his jungle IM, so he's gonna effectively be an assassin at this point, on top of the Kiana, and Barry and Hawkeye are gonna find it really, really hard to even make any kind of rotation anywhere on the map, even if Synapse Sprinters sound near these two, even if Niangi's there. It's gonna be hard for me to say that a Cask will actually be able to protect the carries of Vector here, as Dragon is spawning up now, and Vector did have the first move initially to set up some vision, but Mythos are just brute forcing all of the vision back, and seems like they're just gonna get it started up.
Going to be able to get around that one Jambo, Hawkeye and Side Sprinter. Coming in from the bot side, Dragon has been started up by Mythos, but Vector don't want to give this one up lying down. Barry needs to be careful though, it's been dragged in, and RT there as well. They're going to keep the Azir well away from this fight. Dragon not actually reset, still getting involved in the scuffle, but you can see Joker Booster marching his way down, RT to follow, and all 5 members are coming in from Vector. This is the fight though coming through. Nice double stun onto Jabba. Zephyr has been used to keep the jungler away from any kind of smite steal. It's going to be secured away by Wukong. The fight is kicking off, and Jabba over the wall does get taken out, and Norman's falls immediately afterwards. Very now needs to be careful, but it's going to just be locked up, locked down, and taken down, and that's going to be the ace coming through from Mythos. They take the objective, they take out all 5 members of Vector, and it's only 15 minutes in. Very difficult fight coming in from Vector. Mythos, of course, running away with this game. Do get those power spikes at 2 or 3 items, and it's going to be... Giovanni, you're right there. You just...
Yeah, I had a slight Discord boom.
You know, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, we're back, and I'm not sure what point you were leaving onto, but okay.
Ooh, well, it looks like Aftermath's going to need to be careful. He is overextended. Niangi's coming through as well. 3 members of Vector using the ultimate as well to stop the blast cone escape, and Niangi's going to pick up a consolation kill, but it's very, very little considering what just happened to them.
Yeah, and we're bordering on, if math serves me right, almost a 9k gold lead, so 8.5k is almost the final sum right now, and Vector had no business contesting that dragon. If you're Vector right there, you want to avoid all and any kind of conflict. You want to try and just trade it on the top side of the map, right? Try and take down that tier 1 top lane tower. Just try and find gold wherever you can, but they try and go toe to toe, and they're the scaling comp. They're already behind on gold, and the fight showed. They didn't even trade back any kills. Mythos were just plain and simple too far ahead.
And this is the worry. Niangi has the boys spam away, but if Mythos do get too far ahead, it's going to become very, very difficult to scale off against them, because yes, they hit those power spikes at 2 and 3 items, and you will be ahead at 5-6. But that's when you've got 5-6. Like, the enemy team doesn't fall off when they hit their 4th item. They're going to be even stronger then, and this game at the moment is definitely not on parity.
And when the gold gap is this big between teams, it's always going to be like that, regardless of the comps, but it's going to be exaggerated even worse when you have champions like Aphelios and Azir and Hecarim, who all want to function once they have those core items in their back pockets, right? Nash's Tooth plus Leandri's or Luden's Echo. It kind of depends on the Azir players. Shout out to, of course, the Seraph Azir as well. Okay.
Juggler coming in ult. The Streamer Shuffle won't get him to safety. He's going to flash away actually from the damage. Arsenal needs to be careful. It could be taken down. Won't be. And we do see Azir falling to RTU again. Survives on so much health. Not the optimal dive, but it got the job done.
It was a dive. That's all it was. Oh boy.
Nagi in a death run once again, just running away. Just moving as fast as his little legs will carry him, but will be dragged back in and Juke use the flash support for the kill. Vector do manage to pick up a tower mid in response, but again, it's little gains and they are just falling further behind.
Yeah, falling further behind, and again, this mid tier 1 tower, in a closer to even game state, this would actually be a really big deal. But there's almost a 10k gold lead right now, 18.5 minutes into the game, 18:45 even, so it's not great. It's really still not great for Vector, and I'm unsure how you would even begin to pilot some kind of slow bleed, some kind of turtle to actually allow yourself to come online, because realistically, Mythos can kind of just force wherever they want on the map at this point. As we saw on that top lane dive, the execution wasn't even really there. And realistically, on closer grounds, that should have been at least bare minimum a kill trade back onto Berry, but he couldn't find it. And it's due to there's just not enough gold in his pocket right now. And just barely off screen, we did see Mythos now pick up the second Rift Herald of the game. So far, working on a perfect objective score, something both the dragons. And we didn't really mention it unless my time in Discord limbo allowed me to not hear you mention it, but we are on the Ocean Soul Rift. So, arguably the worst soul to come up against in the game right now. Probably, some people will say Infernal Soul. I guess it's kind of dependent, but certainly has the highest floor Ocean Soul. And if things go to plan for Mythos, they will be picking that one up within the next 8 minutes or so. A little bit less than that. And that's just going to be another hill for Vector to overcome, is an Ocean Soul on top of all of the oppressive champions and the gargantuan gold lead that Mythos find themselves with. So Vector in more than a hole right now.
I think we haven't maybe stated this enough this game, but Mythos have been playing this early game very, very well. Yeah, I think you can see stuff. It's not been perfect, but it hasn't had to be. You know, you've got to. The early game was very, very strong. The Wukong, especially creation jungler, moving around the map, getting so much involvement in and about, and just allowing his team to go into these situations where, yes, you can mess up a 4-man dive top lane because you're still all going to survive and get the kill. And if your team weren't so far ahead, then that could have been disastrous. That could have been as they're picking up 2 kills and maybe even surviving. But as it is, pick up the 3rd dragon. Ocean Soul is now on the cards in 5 minutes time. So make sure you set your watches for 26 minutes into the game. And Vector, it's going to be a struggle for them to get back into this one. Yes, when they get to the higher items, they might be stronger. But what state is the game going to be in when they start picking up that 3rd, 4th item?
Yeah, and normally when you have compositions like this, you can afford to let the first 2 dragons go, and in some cases even the first 3. But when you allow a gold lead to be built in the nature that it's been built, once that 4th dragon rolls around, the soul dragon actually ends up on the map. In a situation like this, you're still not going to be in a position, even if the enemy team has a gold lead that's, you know, maybe a core of this. They would maybe be in a position to contest, but they're just not going to be. It would have to take some kind of unholy miracle to see Mythos throw a lead like this. But if there is some kind of potential saving grace for Vector, it is that this Mythos team doesn't necessarily have the best Baron taking team out there. They don't have an AD carry, they don't really necessarily have a true DPSer. If Mordekaiser's there with his Leandri's, then maybe, but I don't think a Leandri's Mordekaiser is enough to necessarily burst down a Baron even as early as this. But realistically, Mythos don't even really need to play for this Baron as okay.
He uses the ult, but flashes away, but he's still going to take it into the death realm. That's a lot of CC coming through, but Juicer is big enough to survive. Rift Herald has been summoned as well. Wukong will be dropping that one down mid, and
Vector do have to respond. They've already lost one tower to this one. Could we see this charge coming through? I think the Vector might look to step forward. Won't have enough damage to stop it though, and that's another charge. Barry coming in, trying to get onto Jurgen, but look at the damage coming through from Mordekaiser. Will be able to secure the kill on Barry, and he was less than half health when that fight started.
He was 3-digit health when that fight started, Will, and he still won 1v1. So, I don't want to. All right, now, if you're Vector, you're thinking, I don't know about what. And if you're Mythos, you don't even really need to start the Baron at any point, right? There's no need to even take that kind of potential flip. You can just wait for the Ocean Soul. You can just wait for that to spawn. You can pick it up. They've pretty much more than choked out Vector now into their base. They've been starved of CS. They've been starved of jungle camps. As Jambo
forward, getting on top of Artie, does manage to avoid the stun and is looking towards the Kiara, but Aftermath has to be careful, but now coming in the back, Creation Jungle, there's the ultimate, but he's actually going to be ult back himself, and he's going to be taken out before anything can really come of it. Interesting decision there, a very scrappy situation. The Vector do come out of it with a big shutdown.
So those unholy miracles I was talking about, that could have been one of them. I'm unsure why Atsuko was so generous in not executing Jambo. Did have his arm available, had everything available to him, and just opted not to actually just kill him on the spot for what was a very, very audacious engage, and somehow Vector come out of what was a very disjointed play from Mythos as, oh, big boy
He gets stunned up, half health, but manages to get golden before he dies. Juki Booster is taking Jambo into the death route. Artie on the back is actually pretty low as well. Juki Booster does get the first kill of the fight and is looking to step forward. Gets the flash forward, gets the kill onto Barry, looking for Silent Sprinter. Can't grab him in though, and might have to be happy with that one. Members, the rest of Mythos were reasonably low, so didn't want to go for the dive, but Dragon's spawning up very, very soon, just over a minute's time, and both teams are going to have to contest that.
If you're Vector, you might just have to just Hail Mary a Baron. I don't think you even have the opportunity to contest any objective, toe to toe here. As we've just seen over the last 60 seconds, 90 seconds, Mythos are making genuine discoordinated mistakes, and they're not being punished because there's just not enough gold in the pockets of Vector, right? In a closer game state, in a game where the gold lead is maybe only 2k, 3k even, Mythos just threw their lead, right? Mythos just would have thrown their lead, but Vector don't have enough damage to actually take out. Oh, hello.
Yangi going in towards Arsenal, needs to be careful. Does get the ultimate down, but the nice stopwatch there going to be keeping Sidra alive, but does fall immediately afterwards. Barry comes in, not able to pick up the assist, but that's actually a pretty nice 1v1 coming through for the Gragas.
Yeah, it's nice that it ends up in the pocket of Gragas, but it's not necessarily the champion you want it going into the pocket of, looking down the rest of the lineup, really. And seems like even at 4v5, I would imagine. Okay, Jambo's just.
Jambo trying to get forward towards the Dragon Pit, does have to ult away, but is still stunned up and will be taken out. Now Dragon will be secured, going over, that's the soul as well. Nice double stun from Artie, already takes one out with it, and now Barry needs to be careful on the back as well, does have to slide away. Silent Sprinter might not be so lucky, the exhaust has come down, can he flash away? He can, but he burns down with the ignite double kill. Going over to Kiana, Barry and Yangi, the only two left standing, and they might be Sentinels over their base. Pulling, Artie does have to slide away, he has to also has to be careful, but the rest of his team is showing up, and the Ocean Dragon will be doing a bit of work to keep him alive. First inhibitor's going to fall out at the 27-minute mark, and they might push on for more.
Yeah, I mean, the death timers are short. They are coming up right now for Jambo at least, 10 seconds for the bottom lane, but they could look to just end right here. They have the goal to do it, Will.
For the fight, Jambo's jumped into the back like it's on the not enough damage. Nice ring the shovel coming in from Barry, but it's not going to be enough. You can see his there golden statue in the middle of the fight, but it's going to be knocked out once again by the Wukong. He is going to fall down. What can Hawkeye do? Absolutely nothing. Looking to get damage down onto the Wukong Creation jungler, but it's going to be forced back onto its fountain, but the tower does help him out, does secure the kill there. Hawkeye stepping forward, trying to get onto Jurgen Booster, not going to be able to do so. Arsene also having to slide away on the top line, but now they're going towards the Mordekaiser. So Hawkeye and Silent Sprinter looking to take away this big tanky threat, but they're not going to be able to get the damage down before the minions start coming back in. First tower on the Nexus has fallen. Second tower is still full health though, so might stand for a little longer. Silent Sprinter and Hawkeye watching on, waiting for their opportunity. Jambo's back up again. This is going to be the final fight. This is the Alamo. We're going to see Hecarim taken away into the Death Realm as the Nexus goes below half health. The Kiana lands onto no one. First Sprint is engaged on going golden on the Leona, but they're just going to look for the Nexus. They're not too confident about taking this fight. They're just going to take the win.
Take the win and in more than a convincing style, and it was the theme of the game really from the get-go. Vector just were on the back foot, and we saw at the very end there, Berry found a very, very convincing a fight-winning Emperor's Divide, but it just wasn't enough. There was no follow-up damage because there just isn't the champions weren't online yet. Aphelios had just hit 2 items. And Azir had to go Zhonya's second. That's not a DPS item. That's not the kind of item you really want or need. So we see right here, Mythos kind of just take the game in more than a convincing style. They snowball correctly. They end up with all of the win conditions they need. The Wukong snowballed his lead wonderfully. He got the Mordekaiser into a position where he was more than happy to play out the game. They delayed their Aphelios scaling, and in the middle lane, I'm not even sure really how Berry ended up falling behind. He just did, much like the rest of his team, and Vector ended up falling to the wayside.
Last thing we'll have to discuss before we do jump to our next game is MVP of the first game of the UKEL Summer Split for 2020. Who are we looking at? Who stood out? Who was the cream of the crop for Mythos this game?
It seemed like it was Croatian Jungle for me. He did the most. I would say a very close second has to be Mordekaiser. I can't remember his name. Caster, by the way. Has to be the Mordekaiser. He was just putting so much pressure on Jambo. Anytime Jambo actually wanted to try and 50-50 an objective, it was just an immediate death realm onto him, and Jambo didn't really have the opportunity to play the game around those objectives.
It was very difficult, but ladies and gentlemen, we're going to jump to a short break. But don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to be seeing how some of our new boys will do as Lucendi take on Nerd Rage. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a minute.